Hi everyone, this is Richard. In this video, we are going to review accessing elements in HTML. Okay, so we have our input element already. Type equals number, ID equals number, value equals 10, the initial value. Now what I want to do is actually get that value from this particular element and actually print it out in the console. Okay, so with a print method. So let's go say we know that the Dart main.dart is connected to index.html because of this right here, right? So we know that. But how do we get this and Dart to acknowledge it? Well, this is basically, remember like I said, this is kind of like a class. So input and the type is almost like a instance variable where you can give it a value. Well, if we're talking about object-oriented programming, we want to turn this input into a Dart object. How do you do that? I'm going to go over this in a little bit more detail, but my number, the variable, equals, and what we use is querySelector. That's the method in which to access. And there are several different ways of actually accessing the information. This one, because it's the easiest, I'm going to use ID because this is a unique thing that I want to do. It's not a number of them, it's just this particular ID. And we'll go over more of that in future videos. So right here, the syntax is, hang on, double quotations or single quotations, either one, pound number. Okay, the quote pound sign lets us know that it is an ID. Okay, other options, if we are talking about like the name, the syntax would be query selector, then it would be quote brackets name equals, and then more quotations. Let's just say the name was number. Okay, so that would be the syntax for that. And what's the syntax for, like, for example, the tag? So what's the tag? Remember, the tag is input. The tag is div. The tag is body. So if you want to do the tag, you would say same thing. querySelector. And that would be input. Okay. And for like name, tag, class, it would be querySelector quote dot class. Okay, so and when you say in this, for example, if we said class equals number, okay, if it was class equals number, then right here it would be class number. Okay, so it would be a dot in front. So class is a dot. The tag, there is just plain quotation marks. Name under brackets, ID with a pound sign. Okay, I hope you can read that. I haven't played enough with Adam to really know how to in order to actually, let me just do this again. So there you can see it. To change the background color, I'm gonna figure that out in the near future. Okay. So creating an object, it's almost like saying new class, right? For the class, but instead it's querySelector number end. Now remember the syntax in Dart itself, or most object-oriented programs, it is object.method, right? So here we have a method, but where's the object? Well, the object basically is in the objects that we deal with in HTML or in web applications is going to be a node. Okay, so remember all things here is a node. Which node are we talking about? We're talking about the document node. Okay, so document is the object, query selector, but many times we leave document out because it's understood, because what other node would there be, right? At least in this context, because it is here, it does make a difference in the future, but for here and now, the object is document, so that's truly complete. Query selector and the number. Object, method, and the identification, so this is the argument for the method itself, right? So it equals that. Now, what is this right here? Oh, and let's go ahead and let's say print my number, and let's save it, and let's hope this runs correctly. Okay, 18, it's finished running. Where's the console? Console is under more tools, JavaScript console. I think in Firefox it's called console as well. It's under some other area itself. I'll go over that in the future. Well, actually, for now, just remember that we're going to be using Dartium, so we'll go over that in the future, but it might be the distant future, okay? But that's where the console actually is. Again, here, tools, JavaScript console. And it's right here. It's input. So what it is it's an input that I'm actually printing. Now, okay, that's not exactly what I wanted, right? So what I wanted was the value of that. So remember, that's an object. Object dot, how about getting the value? Whoops, value. Print my number dot value. How about that one instead? Save that. Refresh. It's 10. So it prints it out right then. Okay, so that's what I can actually do with getting the value right inside here. Now let's go over a few things. var. Now, if you want to do dynamic typing, that's perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable. But if you want to do more static typing, just kind of get used to it itself, we might want to do something like this. I do this a lot just to cheat when I'm learning at first, especially. What is the runtime here? What is the runtime type? What is this object? So it's an HTML input element itself specifically. Okay, so I can change this to input element. I also know that it is a number input element. Okay, I just know that because it is a number input element. So be as specific as you possibly can for this. Number input element equals number. Now, what if I want to directly access the value? So I don't want to have to put my number type value. What I want my number to be is actually a number, the number itself of this element. Because it's always going to have, it's never going to be null because I have a default value. I can change it in the future and we'll go over that. But it'll never be, because it has an initial value, it'll never be null. So what I can say is I want a number, right? I don't know if it's going to be a double or an integer, though. It could be an integer. It could be a double. So I'm just going to say num. Document equals query selector number. And you could put dot value. And when you print it, it'll print out appropriately. The number will print right there. Okay? What's going on? Getter value is not defined for the class element. This will actually work, but what it's basically saying is that it's not perfectly where it should be. Okay, so to make the syntax correct 100%, you have to put as input element. So document, what was one issue right here? Expected identifier. Put it in the wrong location, sorry. Query selector number as an input element, So what you're basically saying is that I want to get this object. Okay, so this is a method, but once you get the method, you turn it into an object, right? So this is a new object right here. So query selector dot number, that's an input object that we saw from before. So this is now a new object, But if you want to actually do it as an input element, then you're telling the computer ahead of time you can get the value. Okay, so it's just taking one step instead of leaving this out as input element. It leads so you can access the value, so you can go ahead and go directly for the value, because my number will always be a value, a number, and not just the object. It'll be the, for example, the instance variable value, and it won't be the object class. All right, so that's what we're trying to do right here. Just to simplify things in the future. If this makes it more confusing, don't do this. Just turn it into an object. Just turning into an object, and then put my number dot value. But you will see, and it will be easier in the future if you do it as an input element. Hang on. It will actually make things a little bit easier if you do this, okay? I'm having another issue here. String cannot be assigned to the variable type num. Oh, that's interesting. So this actually, this actually is an important thing. When you do have, even though it's a number, I'm sorry, right here, the type equals number, the value that you get is actually going to be a string. That's kind of interesting, right? So it actually, when it's printing this out, this is actually a string. So it would be more accurate to put this in, and it'll get rid of any issues. Again, if you tried doing this, my number plus 3, that's going to be an issue, right? A value string, you're trying to add a string to a integer. It's going to give you an error. Okay, it's going to be some type of type error inside here, right? So what you would have to do is my number. You could do a number of things. You can go int.parse. You can always do that, right? So that would be, I think that's appropriate value. I'm getting some type of issues here. Unexpected token, int.parse the auto format. Okay, then we should be able to do this. A 13. So it's not super important. The concept here is just that you can access the elements, the values, turn them into objects, access their values. Just remember that no matter what this is going to be a string right here, okay? And it's going to be different for different elements. We'll have to take it on a case-by-case basis. And the syntax is document. Oh boy, this is kind of a mess, huh? But document.querySelector .number, and that will give you the input object, and then you can use methods upon that object. And we'll be doing more of this in the near future. Thank you.